Now we play a game.
We got Star Wars Unlimited. We got classic Star Wars games. We got old school D&D, independent RPGs, mini painting, Warhammer, of course, tons of other games. But first, we're gonna need some coffee here on Board Barista Productions. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Retro Reviews, a review show where we go through my copious amount of gaming books, paraphernalia, one at a time, and for color commentary, side questions, and all the other non-me speaking bits, we have Tanya.
Hi everybody, this is gonna be fun. Star Wars, yay!
Yeah, so should have prepped you. I got something to say as we dive into this, and I'm going to be cracking open a cold one for somebody in special tribute. This episode is dedicated to a good friend of mine, passed away a few years ago, but shaped a lot of my gaming destiny. Because this was the first ever RPG book I ever bought. I was not allowed to buy D&D, but I was allowed to buy Star Wars. I was introduced to this by Rusty Mosenfelder, who was a friend of mine in high school. But Rusty's not the person I want to talk about today before we dive into this. The person I want to talk about is the bookstore attendant for many, many years at B. Dalton Bookseller at the mall in Prescal. My good friend, Kenneth Oliver. Ken sold me a ton of the books in this collection. Ken's name has been brought up a lot in the old episodes before Tanya was part of the cast, and I kind of saved this story for this episode. This was 1996 when I got this. It was brand new, just been out for a few months. Saw it in Inquest magazine, talked to Rusty. Rusty knew about it. He was part of the Magic playing scene at my local high school. Played a game with him at my house, played a couple games at his house, decided I needed to get a copy of the book, went to B. Dalton Bookseller, bought this from Ken, and it started I didn't start college until 6 years later after that, but it started this whole 6 years of me basically going to the mall and basically having book recommendations for Star Wars, D&D, and fantasy books from Ken. Fast forward a few years later, I'm in college. I joined the fraternity on campus. Ken is also a fraternity brother. So we bonded over stuff. We played 3rd edition D&D my later years of college together. He was just a great guy. Ken actually was the guy who introduced me to Star Wars CCG tournaments, got my competitive itch that started me playing Star Wars cards. Such a pivotal key figure in my gaming and nerd part of my life. So I know it's not no duels, which was your preferred brand, Ken, but I got an Irish Channel Stout that I'm going to crack open for this episode and dedicate this episode to you. May you rest in peace, buddy. So, like I said, I bought this at B. Dalton Bookseller. It's the first book in the whole gaming collection. It is my much loved. The edges are definitely spent some time in my backpack. There's a lot of water damage from leaky, rainy days carrying this from the bus to the school and from the bus to my parents' house. But all the pages are still there. The binding is still good. It just got a little love on it, which a lot of the Star Wars RPG books all got a little love on them. But so we've started playing this version of the Star Wars role-playing game because I refuse to buy any other. Mostly because this, before we dive into how you play this game and talk about the book, I got to give the backstory for everything. Hence why I need a little verbal lubricant here. Keep everything dry so I don't lose my voice. The Star Wars RPG was such it was the only Star Wars content we got as Star Wars fans from 82 to 96. Well, 95 was when they re-released the movies, but it was just re-released in the special editions. When Timothy Zahn in 93 started the Extended Universe Legends books going, he was given a copy of the first edition of the role-playing game, the movie source book, the Rebel Alliance source book, and the Imperial source book. Just handed these 4 books that made up the game at that point. I said, this is all the information we have about everything that's canon in Star Wars. Here you go. And it became a thing where if a new writer wrote a really successful book or comic book series, they'd get a source book for it. So the game grew from that. There was also a fan magazine, which a bunch of the writers of the novels started out playing this game, writing fan content in the adventure journals, and got picked up by the books, by Lucasfilm Books, to get hired to actually write. So Michael J. Stackpole, his famous Star Wars Extended Universe character of Corran Horn, was a fan character he introduced through the adventure journal. And then when he got hired by Lucasfilm to write the X-Wing novels, he brought Corran Horn into Star Wars canon. And I'm still waiting for a lot of stuff out of the source books, out of these games that got added in. They're supposed to be 100% canon because it made it to the role-playing books. These role-playing books supposed to be 100% canon. I'm waiting for all that stuff to get back in here, and that's the stuff I see in The Mandalorian and Skeleton Crew and all these other shows that I really love Disney's putting out, where they dive into the old RPG source book content. And I'm like, oh, I know what book that's from. Oh, I know what story that's from. Those deep cut Easter eggs wouldn't really exist without this game being the glue that held the extended universe together. And to a small point, when Wizards of the Coast got the license and made the D20 version of Star Wars, that stuff was canonified in it, but it's a lot of stuff that they're like, no, we're forgetting all of this stuff when we do the new Disney stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing a campaign. We're going to air one of the first adventures that me and Tanya have actually played through, the starter adventure that's in this. That's going to air on May the 4th, and we're going to start doing our Star Wars campaign episodes on Sundays. We talked about doing it on Patreon, but I'm like, I don't do as much with Patreon right now. It's still a way to support us, but it's going to be on YouTube. But enough said about that. How do you play the Star Wars role-playing game? It is a lot like D&D. You've got your 6 attributes. Instead of it being, dexterity, constitution, charisma, intelligence, and wisdom like it is in D&D, you have dexterity, knowledge, mechanical, technical, strength, and perception. And you're rolling 6-sided dice. Tanya, you want to explain how how doing stuff with the dice goes?
So at the start of it, we're given a certain quantity of dice we can split up amongst attributes among the 6. What are they called?
Yeah, the 6 attributes. If you're not using it,
there's subcategories in there that you can add skills. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I had the wording backwards. Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay.
But we had like 6 dice that we could split up amongst the skill. 7?
Yeah.
Okay, 7 dice. Well, I did 6, so
so you have 1 skill you get to add an extra dice to.
Good. I know where I'm gonna put that. I chose a Wookiee character, so strength is phenomenal. I have 1 skill that has 7 dice to it on top of the attribute that's got 5 dice. So right there's 12 dice I can roll, which is
which is really good. It does end up being the kind of thing of, because you have your attribute dice, and because you chose the Wookiee template character sheet, you didn't have to assign your attribute dice. You were just assigning your skill dice.
Yeah,
And
just
because you put
dice.
all those dice into that one skill, yes, it makes that one skill amazing, but when you're rolling for other stuff, you're not rolling as much dice for those things. So it balances out that way.
Yeah. But
And
when I go rage mode, I lose the attribute I'm in, I think is perception or knowledge, and I roll at disadvantage of a negative die. I only got 2 dice, and I was supposed to hit a 12 to get out of rage mode. It's not happening.
I'm looking up the Wookiee sheet right now because it's a lot easier to look at the character sheet. Yeah. So the Berserker Rage is a special ability of the Wookiees. You get +2 dice to your strength for brawling damage. But you get -2 to all non-strength attributes and skill checks. But it's only 1 dice minus to your perception. So,
and my perception's already at 2 dice, so I'd lose
dice.
1.
So
I can't hit a 12.
You can hit a 12. You can hit a 12 because no
if
matter
I get
what,
a 6,
if you get a 6 on the die, because every time you die, you have to select one die as a different die. Usually you use like a different color or a different numbering system on it, and you roll that as the wild die. And if it comes up as a 6, you get to keep rolling it. And if it keeps coming up 6s for a while, you get to keep adding those numbers.
Yeah.
I choose the penalty of if you roll a 1, then you lose your highest die that you rolled. So her perception can be a 0 at times if she rolls a 1, but if she rolls a 6, it's at least a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10.
Out of the 3 times I've gone rage mode, not a single time.
No,
not a
so
single time.
you've had to have the rest of the party try to step in to calm you down while you're going home.
Yeah, or you just say, okay, fine, you're out of it now. Because it'd be like 4 turns or 5 turns or 6 turns and still in rage mode.
So one of my favorite, it's one of the how the skills and attributes work out, where you can really min-max the character, but it's really like in your best interest to like diversify your skill dice across a bunch of skills to have a more well-rounded character. It's kind of like teaches the players to be like, you should probably try to make your character more balanced. But part of that system is also the level up. Is there's no experience points where I'm level 1 and then I hit level 2 and then everything goes up just a little bit. You spend your skill points, you spend your character points, which are your experience points, and you usually get between like 9 to 15 in adventure. You spend those to increase your skills or your attributes, but it costs a lot to the attributes. It's for a skill, it's the number of dice you're rolling. That's how many character points you have to spend to first get a +1, then a +2, and then it goes to a whole new die at the 3rd time you've upgraded it. But to do that to an attribute, because you're getting that attribute bonus across all skills, it costs 10 character points per every die of that attribute you have. And I think that it doesn't allow like your characters, if you're constantly spending character points on advancing a certain skill, you're going to get to a point where it's like, okay, I went on this one mission and I get to get a +1 on this one skill I have, or I can spend the character points and get like a couple different dice on these other skills that are really low. It forces like your character's either going to be like stalling out on their progress or become more well-rounded. That's why I love the level up character building aspect of this game.
It is phenomenal. I know for the knowledge and perception, I want to get enough skill character points to level up for another die. Because that is just I need more die on certain aspects.
And how they broke it up, where it's like your mechanical skills are like actually like being able to fix something or do like surgery or stuff like that, like actual like you've studied for this like career-based set of skills. Your technical is just like, can you actually operate this thing? Can you fly an X-wing? Can you use the ship's sensors? Can you actually use a piece of technology?
Ooh,
The mechanical is more like,
okay.
can you?
I'm the medic as well.
Ah,
Good
uh,
to know.
the other thing.
I'm the
was
one
that?
that causes the most damage.
It's funny. So your combat related skills are your strength and your dexterity. Strength
Yeah.
ends up basically being like both muscular strength, but also like your constitution. Dexterity is like manipulating stuff and being able to shoot. There's lots of shooting in this game. You're either firing blasters, ship weapons. It all like having a good dexterity and a good strength is pretty good because there's no hit points in Star Wars. It's not like you get X number of hit points every time you level up in D&D. You get a new hit die, you get to roll it, add your con bonus, and boom, I get to take, I'm level 10 fighter. I've got over 150 hit points. It's like, no. In Star Wars, when something hits you, you roll its damage dice versus your strength. If you're wearing armors have protection against certain types like energy or physical. You get to add those armor dice to it and you roll and compare. And if it does like 0 to 3 damage, you're just stunned. Like it's like a razing wound. You just kind of like, oh, okay. That I connected, but it's not going to disable you. If it hits like 10, if their damage is like 10 points higher than yours, that's the scenes where like, okay, you got your hand cut off by the lightsaber and you're going to need to go get a robot hand. Or if it's 15 points or more, you are just dead. We actually had, spoiler alert for the campaign, they actually had left a stormtrooper alive with one where he was in critical injury, but he survived because it was 14. He rolled for the damage for it, but that stormtrooper survived, was just unconscious, and is coming back for revenge in future episodes. Which is also like one of the things I like about this game. It's the story structure is set up to be like, here's the adventure, and you basically think of it like an adventure is an episode of a TV series. You have the scenes that you're going to play that are going to play into it. Some would just have like the introductory scene, then you got the action scene, then you got the resolution scene. 3-act play, story structure. Sometimes an episode you'll be going to multiple locations, but once you complete the mission objective, and I've been playing the credits from the Clone Wars cartoon, and when I'm like, all right, they've completed it. All right, time to cue up the end music. All right, we'll wrap up. We'll do the awarding of the experience points. We'll let everybody spend what they want to do, and then maybe not. There'll be a cut scene after the credits, after everybody's leveled up. Be like, this is what's happening that you guys are not knowing about. I want to know, have you prepared for what's going to happen? That narrative flow, that episodic storytelling is really cool because you can then have players drop in or out, and it feels like every adventure is basically a one-shot. They just have a big narrative arc that goes through them. So you can just play one-shots all the time, have some little stuff happen here and there. People come or like, I can make this week, but I can't make next week. It's like, okay, just let me know what you're doing in the off time and we'll run that. But you don't have to be there every week kind of thing. Unless you do a cliffhanger. Our first adventure night, I had to do a cliffhanger because we couldn't wrap everything up in the first night.
Yeah.
So yeah, bunch of stuff that I still like about this is the organization of the book. It's broken up because there's only one core rule book instead of 3 like in D&D where there's a player's handbook, a dungeon master's guide, and a monster manual. Yeah. They kind of broke this up into 3 sections where you have the player section is all designed to be like, here's the information about the game, here's a sample character, here's a choose your own adventure style introductory adventure for you to play and experience the rules, have a little bit of combat, use some of your skills. It also has a player handout section, which if anything you give your players while playing is photocopy the player's handbook section, it will describe how do you do a skill check? How does damage work? It's like 4 pages, even has a little space for like Star Wars slang in there that needs to be updated because they've introduced like dang ferric and Poodoo and Slimo and Kiffing. It's like 4 other Star Wars slang words that didn't get into this book. And it's also in that section they break down the attributes and skills. The Game Master section is all how to be a GM, how to design combat, how does combat work, how does injuries work, section on movement and chases, how to do a chase scene, space travel and combat, and also all the stuff for the Force is covered in that section, because the storyline, like a lot of this is all set is during the height of the Empire. So it usually takes place that time period where the only known Jedi were Obi-Wan, Yoda, and maybe Luke, depending on like what part of the timeline you're playing in. So Jedi characters were rare, usually very underpowered. They had a little bit of force power, but not a lot. They'd have like 1 die in like one of the 3 force aspects: control, sense, and alter. Which is the force being broken up into like 3 different aspects was like started by the role-playing game to figure out how to make it work within the rules, and became part of the force thing. Of control is basically self-control. It's being able to manipulate parts of your body, like putting yourself into a Jedi healing trance is a control power. Sense is the ability to perceive things, or that little communication that Luke and Vader have, where Vader's like trying to talk to Luke while he's on the Falcon, and they're having that little conversation where he's like, "Join me," and Luke's like, "No." That's all sense type stuff. And then your alter is affecting other stuff. So the whole like reaching out with the Force, pull the lightsaber to your hand. That's an alter skill. And some of them are combined, like Jedi, like lightsaber proficiency is a sense alter force power, where you're using sense to aid to your ability to fight with a lightsaber. You get to roll your sense dice in addition to your lightsaber skill, but you get to roll your alter dice in addition to your damage dice with the lightsaber. So it's kind of like it's kind of cool. It ends up being like a 3-part magic system using like the body, the spirit, and awareness. So it's like, okay, very forcey, very zen-ish type thing. The adventure section goes over designing adventure. There's a sample adventure in here to run with a group. Again, it goes over those episodes and scenes mentality, which has been a major like part of my DM philosophy, is to like break it down. Like, how is this adventure going to play out if it was a TV show? Okay, we're going to have, if we're playing D&D, okay, we're going to have our intro before the first commercial break. We're going to be in town. We're going to be at the bar. We're going to do all our little stuff that we're doing before the adventure happens, our in-character prep. Then I'd be like, okay, time for a smoke break. Okay, everybody, 5-minute break, potty, smoke, food, whatever you need to do. We're going to come back in here, and we're going to do the exploring of the dungeon scene. And that's probably going to go for like 2 more commercial breaks, 2 more little quick breaks to do stuff, and then come back for that last section of the episode. Is like, okay, here's the end boss fight in the dungeon. We're going to be here until we're finished, and then we'll cut to credits, award experience points, level ups, plan next week's adventure. You know, it's a very good narrative structure for running a game, and it all came from me starting with this game first. There's also the universe section where you get all that Star Wars lore and history, and just basically how to, you know, that Star Wars flavor that you need to be able to make the game Star Wars. This has, you know, game master characters, NPCs, how to make them, and also like some stock examples that you can just use right out of the book. Again, with aliens, you get the game stats, so you can make your own as characters or NPCs. Again, stock to be able to use as well as own. There's the weapons and equipment. This one covers basically everything that you see in the movies. except for Boba Fett's armor. It's in a different book because it's Mandalorian armor. It's hard to get your hands on. Nobody's going to get that. But Stormtrooper armor, totally covered in here. Then you get the droids. You get stats for the droids. You get how to play droids as characters. There's a whole big thing about, like, it's a completely different logistical nightmare as a character to play a droid because you don't level up the same as everyone else. You're not just like, I'll spend the character points to get this. It's like, no. You got to spend the character points to get the skill, but we also need to take you to a droid tech, have them do some reprogramming, add on some components, like, because droids end up starting with so many ridiculous skills. They made it really hard for a droid to level up, and droids cannot use the Force, which any character can kind of use the Force. You have the Force points in the game. Everybody starts with 1. If you're Force sensitive, you start with 2. They're narrative story points where if you're doing something you think is not going, you're going to have a very small chance of success to do, but it needs to happen for the story, you can spend the Force point. You double all the dice you roll except for the wild die. And for that one action, you get to double all of your dice. And that ends up being like, yeah, you go from being like, I got a little bit of skill to like, I can actually crazy, shoot the proton torpedo into the thermal exhaust port and actually blow up the Death Star. That's a use the Force moment. Force sensitives are able to have start with 2 Force points. They're able to have an unlimited number of Force points. Every character can have 2 at most, except for Force sensitives. Then you have the dark side points. Basically, if you do something evil or use an evil Force power or call on the dark side to gain a Force point, you get a dark side point. You have to roll your perception versus your dark side points every time you get a dark side point. If you ever roll under, you go over to the dark side, you hand your character sheet to the DM, and you now become an NPC they can use as the villain for the story. That is so much fun to just be like, oh, your character has fallen to the dark side. Please make up a new one and hand me that one. But yeah, and you also get like the vehicles, the spaceship stats, the planets. There's reference section with charts of most commonly used gear, ships. There's 20 different character templates in this core rulebook. So instead of building your own character, trying to go, I need to put this many dice into my perception and my strength and stuff like that. What they've gone is built archetypes. So you've got the Wookiee as one archetype that Tanya uses. We've got the noble, which is Josh's character. We got the gambler, which is Sam's character. So, and there was actually, I should have let you know before they started selecting all their characters. There's more character templates. There's one book we're going to be talking about in the future that is nothing but character templates. And there's also some that are in the Dungeon Master's screen. So there's actually a lot more than just the templates in the book.
Nice.
But having those, so to let our viewers know, basically the attribute dice have already been assigned, and they list a bunch of skills, but they don't put the dice into them. They leave those as like, these are the suggested skills that your character would have. Pick, like the suggestion on how to use the templates is pick 7 of these skills that you really want your character to have, and put one of your skill dice into each of them, and that will be what you have for your character. Yeah, it's just, there's so much I love about this game that I think I've covered everything. There's only one thing I don't like as a game master, is that all the game stats are in the same book. That ends up, it's a pet peeve of mine that sometimes you want to adjust things. Sometimes you want to change things a little bit and to fit the story. And then when the players are like, actually, the book said, like, they're not supposed to, it's like, no, this is a different dude. It's like, maybe, and like, you get some people, some rules lawyer players can pull up the whole thing because they've got their copy of the rule book in front of them.
Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about that with our players because I'm the only one that can access the rule book. I have it on my phone and on my desktop. So
it's kind of nice, and it's a simple enough like system for everybody to understand. It's like you have this many dice. Here's the number I need you to roll in order to succeed. Like its difficulty number is this. Roll your dice. Did you beat it? No? Okay.
Joran was just in one of the campaign. We've done 3, and Joran popped in on one of them. She picked it right up.
Oh yeah, no, it is so
it was, boom.
It's so
easy
so intuitive.
User friendly. I mean, it's way user friendly.
Which the game that I'm working on, the Flip game, is going to be a D6 a variant of the D6 system. I'm planning on using it for it, just because I love that wild die mechanic of just like something happens and like I got the 6 and oh yeah, I get to keep rolling. That's such a good feeling to have it come up 6 and you're like, okay, let's keep it rolling.
And it keeps going and going and going.
The combat mechanic of I roll my dice versus the DM's dice, or if I'm doing something with another player, I roll my dice versus their dice, and then we compare like that. A non-static ace, like D&D has a static armor class. Your armor class is going to be a 14 no matter what. Every time somebody rolls the hit, it's like, did they get a 14? Did they not get a 14? Okay. It adds a little bit of dynamic tension because if you say you've got strength of three dice +1, and your armor gives you +2 against physical attacks. So you're rolling 5 dice and you add 2 to it. And they're swinging with like a baseball bat, and a baseball bat's going to do their strength. Maybe they got like 3 dice in their strength. And then a baseball bat's going to do an extra 2 dice of damage. I can't remember off the top of my head the stats for a baseball bat. So I'm just freeballing it here. But so they've got 5 dice versus your 7 dice. Okay? Because it's like, say you're wearing a suit of medieval plate mail and they're trying to hit you with a baseball bat. The chances of them actually getting through and damaging you, very small. Because you've got, even with 7 dice, average dice rolling, that's like it's a 24. You should be rolling with 7 dice on average. Somebody in the math majors are going to be like, oh, you're close, but it's actually like 25 or 26. Anyways, you're supposed to roll around there. They've got 5 dice. They're looking at like 18 as their average. So, that's on average. It usually says the baseball bat's not going to get through, but that baseball bat rolls a 6 on the wild die and rolls really hot on the rest of their dice. And then the guy who's wearing the suit of armor just rolls nothing but 1s and 2s. He can get knocked out with a really well-placed shot. And you have that every time. It's like, well, they beat my armor class. It's like, it goes from being a pass-fail, where it's like a quick little, there's nothing to worry about here. Then I'm going to get hit and take it. And because I got all these hit points, it doesn't really matter. To the whole thing of like, no, they found the weak spot in your armor and you are bleeding out here, bud. You are bleeding out. Like that knife went right in between the plates, nicked your femoral artery. Somebody shot the arrow right through the slit. There's so much more dynamic tension in this combat system, and I love that about this game, that I want to use it in my own game. But yeah, no, I've been loving the D6 system. It's enough. Your honest opinion, scale of 1 to 5 stars, what would you give Star Wars?
I would give 5. There's enough adventures in it. You can take it so many directions depending on what the players are going to do.
Oh, yeah, no, like this is supposed to be a starfighter. Like I gave everybody 3 extra bonus skill dice to put between starship piloting, starship mechanics, or starship gunnery, because I wanted it to be a starfighter campaign. And they've all got ships, and some of them chose to be gunners, and some of them chose to be pilots. So we're flying. I was thinking everybody was going to kind of like, we'll do X-wings, but it ended up being like, we're going to do Y-wings, and I'm like, okay, that works, because one of the big final missions they're going to have to do is a bombing run. So that works out great that everybody's taking the Y-wings. But it's this whole thing with spoilers for the game, hopefully hype for the game. Josh's whole plan to put these irradiated dead bodies on the space transport to use as like their whole like, see, we brought them in, but they're all dead, but we got the ship and we got the cargo. To be able to make the Imperials think they're a bunch of mercenaries. I mean, that was one of the ideas I had for the game is like, how are they going to get in behind enemy lines? One squadron of starfighters to be able to sneak in behind the Imperials so they can blow up the big Imperial ship. And he's got a great idea that he's rolling with here. He trying not to have everything go into combat, using a lot more of his con skills and his diplomacy. Because basically when it comes to combat, your character is like, even like ship combat, your character is the one that's doing most of the actual heavy lifting in this situation. Yep. The Wookiee tail gunner is just like, if it's melee combat, you're the one that's picking up and squashing all the stormtroopers. If it's space fighting combat, he's just driving the bus and you're doing all the work on the guns. Yep. It's really coming out to be a cool thing, and I think we're still going to be able to do the narrative story that I wanted to portray for this. And that's really like the thing about it is a session 0 for the Star Wars thing is you got to sit down with your players. You're like, hey, we know we got this huge cast of characters you can pull from, but I want to do my Star Wars story. I want to do that I've prepped up and I've got the scenarios in my head of what I want to run is like this TV series. Okay. These are the, like, try to pick your character based on who you want to play in that kind of story. Give them a lot of lead time of like, this is what I'm planning on doing. Build your characters to match, give them some extra skills dice to put into certain skills they're going to be using all the time. So you're not penalizing the 7 dice they get to start with. Or, they're able to use some of the dice they start with to be a little bit better and be like, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm going to shine in these moments. And, collaborative narrative storytelling. This game is all about that. But yeah, it's really is the best game out there. And if you search for D6 Holocron in Google, you'll find the source books. Because this game is out of print. The people who actually published the game are no longer in business, which is a sad, sad story, but it's a great game. It's survived. Tons of fans out there. There's even people who have gone through and converted the D20 RPG by Wizards of the Coast, actually had a conversion manual in its first edition core rulebook to do all the conversions from the D6 system to the to D&D third edition style system. And a bunch of people out there actually used all of those conversion files to make PDFs of everything about like the Yuuzhan Vong War and all the stuff that happened in the later parts of the extended universe. All got backwards compatible because Wizards, for some reason, when they were doing third edition D&D, they wanted to have this whole, it's the open game license. Let's let everybody be able to use everything else. Let's make this game backwards compatible because so many people enjoyed the old game. We don't want to alienate them. We want them to be able to bring their stuff over into this game. We don't have all the plethora of source books available yet to reprint and do everything into it. So we'll just give them the conversion stats that we use for converting the D6 game into D&D 3.0, 3.5. And I was like, oh yeah. I need to find, I had a copy of the D20 versions of the books. I plan to try to get a few of them. Well, actually, I don't really need to because I've got the online PDFs that everybody did the conversion stuff, but I plan on getting all that stuff when I advance to, like, we're going to bring in the Vong at some point. Not this season, probably like if we continue this game into like a season 5, season 6, maybe towards the end, that'd be a cool place to go with it. But enough about this. Anything else you want to talk about in the core rulebook?
No, it's simple to use, and it's fast, fun gameplay. Easy to get started.
All right. Well, that's all for this episode. Thanks for joining us. Do all those things that let Facebook know we're doing a good job. Laura's going to talk about that in the outro. I'm just going to say peace.
Peace. See y'all next week.
Hey everybody, thanks for staying till the end of the episode. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook at Board Barista Productions. And if you want to support us, Patreon link at the bottom.